Guys, if you haven't yet listened to Taylor Swift's Folklore album, I'm telling you. And if you don't know me, like I love Taylor Swift, and I know some of you are probably like hating that, but I'm telling you. Wait for it. I'm just kidding. I need to actually work, but I'm telling you, go to YouTube, go to Spotify, start listening to it. Let's begin here. Algebra 2.1. You are supposed to be taking the quiz literally right after this video. So I'm going to go through some Bell work questions that are actually on the quiz. So that's a plus, right? And after I do that, that'll be great. After I do that, we'll get you to the quiz. Don't forget your focus notes are actually due today about the two lessons that we went through to solve linear equations and inequalities, and then the absolute value in equations and inequalities. I need those pictures submitted on Google Classroom. I'll show you where right now, just in case. If you go on your main screen, you'll see this, okay, focus notes. You'll just click on focus notes. Obviously, students haven't done it yet, so click on that. And then literally it will be all this information. Here are the rubric, and here's kind of like the directions. Of course, I will only be checking the only two notes that we did this week. Okay, great. So make sure you do that, please. Please do that. All right, let's get into it. So these are all the things, the problems I want to get to. There's four of them. There's two equations, and then there's two inequalities here. All right. So go ahead and pause this and kind of write them down. Give yourself some room, and then I'm going to go through them. But I'm going to go through them fairly quickly, so I can get you guys to your quiz. All right, let's go for it. So this one right here, the absolute value is on the left side, but the problem is, watch. When I divide by -2, I divide by -2. This is an inequality. What happens when I divide by negative, guys? What happens when I divide by negative? It becomes, let me get it down here. This flips. So now from a less than to a greater than, and then this, of course, is just 3. Now, since this is a greater than, and since this is isolated, I have two separate inequalities I have to do. The first one is exactly how I see it, except for the fact that I don't have the absolute value bars. And then the second one is exactly how I see it, except for the fact that I don't have absolute value bars. But as well as the fact that I actually flip this sign again. That's why I'm putting there in blue. Okay, so you have to make sure you do that, and that's the tricky part when you do these questions. Now I have to, of course, subtract the 1 over, so negative x. I subtract the 1 over, so that's 2. Now watch right here. I have to divide by -1 again. What does that mean? That means I flip the sign again on this one. Okay, so I have to flip the sign again, and this becomes -2. Anytime you divide by negative, every single time you must flip that sign, that inequality sign. Same thing here. This is negative x less than. If I subtract the 1 over, this has become -4. Guess what? Divide by -1, divide by -1. So that means I have to flip this inequality sign back. And then this becomes 4. These are my two answers. All right, let's try to graph them here. Oh, it looks so good, and then it kind of like tailed at the end. Okay, so -2, let's do a 0 for reference, and then a 4 here. Okay, so -2 is going to be open, and it's going to go shooting this way, and then open for 4, shooting this way, because they're both not equal to, straight up solid open dots. Sometimes, again, you'll see parentheses, maybe you'll see parentheses. Remember, how can I jump from one thing to the next? A union. So what does that mean for my interval notation? It means -infinity because we're reading left to right. We read in that direction. I'll even write it out for you. Read in that direction, left to right. -infinity, we stop at -2. Bracket? No. Parentheses because it's open dot. I want to jump from -2 to 4. I do that by union. So then parentheses, we use open dot, 4 comma positive infinity. That is my answer for domain interval notation. Fantastic. We just shot through that one. Straight up went to town, I'm telling you. All right, let's do it. I'm going to erase this. Let's go to the next one. All right, this one I did on the very, like one of the last things I did on the previous video when I showed you a quiz review. This one will be on the quiz, by the way. I'm almost for certain. It's actually really not that difficult. It is an equation, and it is isolated on both sides, so that means we really just do it exactly how we normally do equations, but there's one little caveat, one little thing I have to make sure. The first equation is exactly how I see it, except for the fact there's no absolute value bars. Now the second equation is similar, exactly how I see it, except for the fact there's no absolute value bars, but also I need to include a negative here. Okay, now notice I'm using parentheses because that negative has to be distributed to both of those terms inside those parentheses. So again, think of it like an understood one. So since we're right here, let's just go to town on this one. So this is 9x minus 1, this is negative 5x, and then minus 10. I want to add the 5 over, so that will become 14x. I want to subtract, well, add the 1 over, so that will become negative 9. If I add the 1, that becomes negative 9. Good. 14, 14. Okay, so what is x? X equals negative 9 all over 14. If you get a fraction, don't freak out. Sometimes you'll get fractions. Don't be like, oh my gosh, I did it wrong. No, that's not always the case. All right, so I'm going to add the 1 over, subtract the 5 over. If I subtract the 5 over, I'm going to get 4x. If I add the 1 over on that side, I'm actually going to get 11. So it looks like we're going to get another fraction, which is fine. Divide by 4, that goes poofy. X equals 11 all over 4. So these are my two answers. I'm happy. Yay! All right, let's do it. Do it to it, Lars. Awesome. All right, this one, just straight inequality, but we do want interval notation with it. So let's go to town. The first thing I notice is distributing. So I'm just going to keep this 4x here, just chilling. Let's distribute. This is 4x plus 2 minus x plus 4. All right, we have a lot of things that I can combine here, at least on the right side, so I'm going to combine those. I'm going to make the left side just chill for a second. It be chilling. It's not going out to lunch at all. So this is 3x, and then this right here, when I combine those, that's going to be plus 6. Now I can subtract the 6 over, I can subtract the 1 over. If I subtract, I can subtract the 3x over, and I can subtract the 1 over. If I subtract the 3x over, I get x. If I subtract the 1 over, I get 5. Notice how the sign doesn't change? Because I didn't divide by a negative or multiply by a negative. Now, it wants to use interval notation, and it wants us to graph the set. So first things first, interval notation. Remember, I usually like to interval note. How about that? I'm going to abbreviate. I usually like to do the graph first so I can visually see it. So that's what I'm going to do. And if you need to do that too, that's fine. Do that. So this is my graph. Notice how this is going to be an open dot because it's not equal to, and it's pointing to the right. So I'm going to shade all of that. So what is my interval notation? What is this thing right here? It wants interval notation. What is that? Well, where does the graph exist? If I read it left to right, if I read it from here to there, what's going on? Like how can I do this? Well, it starts at 5, so I want to put a 5 there, and it goes all the way to positive infinity. Now, we already know parentheses is on the positive infinity because you can't technically equal infinity. We should know that. Always parentheses on infinities. But we also have parentheses on the 5 as well because it's not equal to. So that is my final answer. That's awesome, right? I think. I don't know. All right, I'm going to race. We're going to town on these. We're going to town. If you have any questions, just by all means, email me before you take the quiz. I don't want you to take the quiz if you don't feel up to it. All right, absolute value equation. Let's go to town on this. I have a lot of things that I need to kind of separate before I actually get this absolute value part by itself. One of those things is minus 8. Now notice I'm not dividing by 2 first. I do need to divide by 2, yes. But I'm not doing that first. I want to get rid of all the addition and subtraction stuff first. So that goes poofy. So now I'm left with 2. Absolute value of 6 minus 3 all over 2x. And this equals, that right there is 6. Now I can divide by 2. Because again, I'm just trying to get it by itself. So absolute value of 6 minus 3 all over 2x equals 3. Now that's by itself. Fantastic. Let's go over here. My first equation is going to be exactly how I see it, except for the fact I don't have absolute value bars on it. My second equation is exactly how I see it, except for the fact that I don't have absolute value bars on it, and I will have a negative, okay, on that. Solid? That's how you do equations. Now, I'm going to subtract the 6 over. All this junk is going to stay the same. Subtract the 6 over. This will be negative 3. Now, I need to multiply by the reciprocal. So, negative 2 all over 3. What I do to one side, I must do to the other. So, I need to do to the other. That goes poofy, poofy. I'm left with x equals, the 3 is technically over 1 here, which means that goes poofy. And then the positives, the negatives go into a positive, so I'm really just left with 2. Wow, that was awesome. X equals 2. We're baller. All right, let's do the next one. I want to subtract that over, so negative 3 all over 2x. If I subtract that over, negative 3 minus 6 is going to be negative 9. And then I want to multiply by the reciprocal, so this is going to be negative 2 all over 3, just like what I did to the first equation. Negative 2 all over 3. Technically, this is all over 1. That goes poofy, that goes poofy. I'm just left with x. Now, what happens here? Well, this is divided by 3. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. 9 divided by 3 is 3. And those negatives still become a positive. So what am I left with? Just 3. Boom. Solid. Okay, and I don't need to graph this. Whoa. I don't need to graph this at all, okay, because they're equations. I only have to graph inequalities. If you wanted to graph it, remember, it would look something like this, but it's never going to ask you. If this was 2 and now it's 3, it would just be closed dots because it actually equals them. And that's it. Those are the ones. Sweet. All right, go ahead and wrap that up. I'm going to erase. All right, so now you have an Algebra 1 quiz. That is 10 questions, 45 minutes. I do have 45 minutes, unless you have specific accommodations, but 45 minutes, open notes. You can use my videos if you want. I mean, by all means. I don't know if that would really help you. But yes, send me any partial credit requests if necessary. You don't have to send them to me, but you can if you want. Let's just say you put a negative where it's not supposed to. You put a 5. X instead of a 5y or something. I don't know. Okay, parentheses, bracket, stuff like that. You can definitely email me for, and I can help you. Don't forget about your Cornell notes. Don't forget about your Math Excel assignments. So all of these. Okay, all of these. Don't forget this by 4 p.m. Don't forget the algebra pretest by 4 p.m. Try to finish up the actual homework assignments because those again are participation grade. So this homework assignment and then this homework assignment. Make sure you finish those. The homework quizzes will not be able to make up. So if you totally blank on them by 4 p.m., you can't make them up. So you need to complete them. Okay, same thing with the quiz review. Make sure you do that. The quiz obviously needs to be done by 4 p.m. Everything's due by 4 p.m. Just look at the due date. Everything's due by 4 p.m. All right, I don't think I missed anything. Oh, also, don't forget the Math Excel orientation. Math Excel orientation login. I already said the orientation here, but remember, you still need to do the login on Google Classroom, and you need to submit pictures of your notes. Okay, you can't just submit my PowerPoints. I've already done the notes. I've done them actually many times. I'm a great student. Okay, you, though, have not done the notes. So please submit pictures as cleanly and as neatly as possible. I will try to follow as best as I possibly can with regard to this rubric. So if you get a bad grade, don't come complaining to me. Just look at the rubric. You need the summary and the reflection on both of those. I do show you a summary at the end of those for your convenience. All right. Wow. That is the first full week of online. Why won't it go? Okay, great. That was the first full week of online Algebra 2.1. Phantoms, you're going to town. It's a whole new kind of learning. So if you need anything else, anything at all, by all means, let me know. Until next time and until next week, pop in at the Google Meets at 10 a.m. Yep, 10 a.m. on Monday. Pop in, please, as soon as possible. And we're going to be doing actual Algebra 2.1 stuff. Yeah, sweet. All right, I'll see you guys later. Peace.